Hello, friends. Welcome to your motivational Gen Z and Millennial Expert podcast. I am your host. My name is Dr. Jason Wiggins, and it is absolutely amazing to be here. We focus on the leadership blueprint, career growth, motivation, and workplace success for Gen Z and Millennials. I want to thank everybody for being here. It is so wonderful to be here with you today, and we have an excellent podcast that's really going to kind of rip at the heartstrings a little bit. So it should be a great time for everyone to learn and to really focus on what matters for Gen Z and millennials. Before we get into anything, let me start by setting the context for this episode very clearly. This podcast is about something most people are dealing with right now, especially Gen Z and millennials in today's workforce. It's about staying mentally stable, emotionally controlled, and consistently productive in an environment where pressure is constant, expectations shift, workloads are increasing, and motivation inconsistent. And more specifically, this episode is about something even more important than productivity. It's about what happens when you feel frustrated, overwhelmed, or just mentally disposed for the moment. And how do you regain control of your behavior when your emotions are working against you? Because in today's work environment, success is no longer just about talent. It's about emotion under pressure. It is about what you do when you don't feel like doing anything. It is about how you respond when motivation disappears. And if you don't have a system for that, you don't just struggle with productivity, you struggle with consistency, confidence, and long term growth. So, in this episode, we are going to break down in a very real and practical way why frustration happens at work, why motivation disappears under pressure, and how burnout actually shows up in behavior. And most importantly, what to do in real time when you just don't feel like doing anything. Let me take you into a moment that almost everyone has experienced, but very few people actually understand. These mornings where you are not lazy, there are mornings like that. There are mornings where you are not confused, and yet you still cannot start. You wake up already feeling mentally behind. Before your day even begins, your phone is already pulling your attention. Emails, messages, deadlines, and expectations. And your brain is almost activated before your body is fully caught up. And then you sit down, you open up the laptop, and you just stop. Not because you don't know what to do, but because everything feels like too much to start at once. And in that moment, something very subtle happens. You don't start, you delay. You tell yourself, I will get to it in a few minutes. But those few minutes turn into avoidance, and avoidance turns into frustration, and frustration turns into guilt. And suddenly, your entire emotional state for the day is built on moment of hesitation that happened at the very start of your day. And here is what most people misunderstand. This is not a motivational problem. This is a system overload and emotional friction problem. And if you don't understand that, you will be mislabeled. And that is about, I'm lazy, I'm behind, I can't stay disciplined. When in reality, your system is just overwhelmed at the point of entry. And that is what we are going to break down today in today's episode. So I know that was a big, strong, visible way of talking about this podcast, but that's really going to get you started because the reality is frustration is there. When you have cognitive overload combined with emotional resistance to initiation, that's when the brain was not refusing to work. It was trying to reduce perceived threat by delaying engagement. And if you misinterpret that moment, you turn it into your identity. I'm not disciplined. I'm behind and I can't stay consistent. When in reality, you are simply overloaded in the entry points of your own action. And that distinction is everything. Let me tell you about a very real pattern that happens almost every day in the workplace. And we'll just call this person Jane. Jane is not failing. Jane is not underperforming in a visible way. Jane is actually doing fine on paper. She meets deadlines. She responds to messages. She completes tasks. But if you zoom in very closely enough, something is changing. At the beginning of her role, she was engaged. She was asking questions in meetings. She offered suggestions. She stayed mentally active beyond just assigned tasks. She was visible, but over time, something began to shift. Not suddenly, gradually. She received feedback that feels sharpened than expected. She gets more work without more clarity. She is expected to adapt faster than she is given support. And internally, her system starts to adjust. She does not consciously decide to disengage, but it just happens as a protective response. Jane starts thinking, I will just stick to what I'm assigned. I don't want to overextend. I'll just do my part. On the surface, yeah, this may sound responsible, but underneath, something more subtle is happening. Her emotional investment in the work is decreasing, not her effort, her engagement. And here is the most important part most of us miss in the workplace. When emotional engagement drops, visibility drops. And when visibility drops, opportunity drops. And that is where career stalls happen without obvious failure points. Not because Jane stopped working, but because she stopped extending herself into uncertain and uncomfortable spaces. What Jane did not want to be seen or heard. And I've had many employees that I've worked with, I've seen it, I've witnessed it, and it's a very common occurrence. And these are the same individuals that wonder why. Why am I not being promoted? Why am I not getting where I want to go? Because they feel mentally exhausted, they feel mentally drained, and they feel like at some point they weren't able to make a difference any longer. They weren't able to maximize their opportunity. And that's why, as Gen Z and Millennials, when we have a tough economy and things are happening in a way that we can't control, we can't pay our bills, we can't find the right job, we become underemployed, we become in a situation where we are no longer in control of that situation. And what happens? You become mentally drained, become mentally disorganized, and then you lose the purpose of why you started that job in the first place. Why did you take the job? Why did you engage in the opportunity when you started, but now you're not? Because there was a system that occurred during that process, a system failure. The failure might have happened from an employer's point of view, or it could have happened from your own point of view as the Jane situation we just talked about. And then part of it is, why can't we start something? Why can't we get to the point where we are not being known as failures. So let's get this really started at a deeper level. When people say, I can't get motivated, they assume motivation is missing. But motivation is not a starting point, it's the result of the conditions around you. There are three main points that I would like to break down. Number one, it's initiation overload. Your brain sees too many possible starting points at once. You become discombobulated because you're not able to control the situations around you. So instead of choosing one, you choose none. This is the opposite of multitasking. It is no tasking, meaning you become so anxious about the situation that you've got 10 things in front of you and you can't tackle one. This is not confusion, it's overload paralysis. Number two, emotional weight association. The task is not just a task, it carries meaning, performance pressure, fear of feedback, fear of falling behind, fear of judgment. So start feeling emotionally heavier than continuing. This is a situation where, you know, it happens to a lot of us. It's happened to me in the workplace where I've got so many things going on at once. I really want to tackle everything. I want to hit everything on the nail on the head. And guess what? I'm concerned. I'm afraid. Will I fail? Will I not be able to get where I want to go? And then if I do get where I want to go, I mean, I've had speeches where I went in and I felt that performance pressure. I felt like, was I going to succeed? Was I going to not have anybody clap at the end of the speech? Was I going to be a laughing stock? And that's where you start to feel it's performance failure. It happens in sports, it happens in business, it happens when it comes to making that big negotiating deal. Where am I going to be able to live up to expectations? Number three, no immediate reward signal. Your brain does not see instant payoff. It does not see that expectations being rewarded. So it deprioritizes the action when it doesn't see the payoff. What happens? You end up basically dragging your feet and you don't do what you need to do. Effort now, uncertainty later. And this is a problem because you start to drag your feet, you start to lose the momentum, and you don't do things when you're supposed to do it. So, what you're experiencing is a lack of motivation, is actually a system that does not know how to enter action without emotional resistance. Because you are trying to solve a systems problem with your own emotional language, and that disconnect really causes concern or issues. So, real time recovery systems, what to do when you feel like you are at a constant, non functioning type of position. Now, let's bring this into real life. You are at your desk, you don't know what to do, you are frustrated, you are delaying. Here is exactly what you do. This is an important concept, not theory. This is the execution sequence. Step one, physically reset. You break your physical loop, meaning you stand up, you move, you walk around, you change your environment. It's kind of like writer's block. You have to start writing the first sentence. If you start writing the first sentence, you will likely continue to write. Once you change your environment, because the nervous system responds to movements faster than thought. So, number two step to be able to do something when you can't physically get it done, you say internally, I am overwhelmed right now. I'm resisting starting, not to fix it, but to remove ambiguity because unidentified emotion becomes behavioral resistant. So I am overwhelmed right now. Say that to yourself and understand that this is real. By acknowledging it, it'll give you that opportunity to really focus on being able to move forward. You reduce the task until it's impossible to feel pressure. So this is known as task collapse. This is step 3, task collapse. Not finished report, not even working on the report. Don't look at it like that, but open the document, write that first sentence. And then once you write that first sentence, review it and adjust a section. You have just broke the entry resistance. You have just got started. And then one of my favorites, step 4, time container. It's a 10-minute rule. You set a timer for 10 minutes. That's it. Not productivity, not completion, just slowly getting yourself into the motion because your brain resists that commitment for more than effort. So once you start breaking the cycle, you'll continue to be a top performer. Step 5 out of 6, remove emotion from the equation. It's not, I need a motivation. It's not, I need to feel ready, but this is the next action I'm taking. It's neutral, it's controlled, and it's non-negotiable. And the final step is after you act, you stop for a moment and acknowledge, I started. Because your brain rebuilds that momentum from the evidence, not intention. Now, another story I'd like to share about Jane again. The day she didn't lose the day, this was another morning, but this time she wakes up already mentally off. The focus is low. Her energy's inconsistent. The old version of her would have lost the day emotionally before it even got started. She would have said, today is not going to be productive. And the day would follow that. Now she uses a different rule. She says, I need a day where it does not happen to be a perfect day. I need a stable one. So Jane in this case reduces everything. One task, one focus block, and one small completion. And that starts everything. She can start any way she wants, not because she feels ready, but because she understands something critical. Stability is built through action, not emotion. And that's where the clarity comes through when we start looking about how we are going to get through the day, how we are going to prioritize. Think about when you're feeling unmotivated. You can't get motivated. You need inspiration. This is not accurate. Motivation breaks down for 3 real reasons. First, your brain sees too many inputs at once. So instead of prioritizing, it shuts you down. Second, your emotional load is already high. Stress, pressure, fatigue, uncertainty, it all bottles up. So you start feeling heavier. And then, as we mentioned, there's no immediate reward to feel good. And this happens quite often. We have to have a clear purpose. We have to be able to understand the focus that it takes to guide our journey with clear, psychological, appropriate ways of doing things. And so when you can do this, every smallest controllable action allows you to be productive. And you need to take it because that's how you break the cycle. That's how you regain momentum. And that's how success is determined long term. And you are already seeing that fruits of your labor. So stay steady, stay grounded, and keep moving forward, even when it's difficult. With a job market where people are underemployed, where people are doing jobs that maybe they normally wouldn't do because they have a necessity to survive, then when you do that, that will provide you the outcome, the way of being successful. And that's why Gen Z and millennials, when times are tough, you have to get through it. You have to be able to look, what is my final destination to where I am going to focus on being grounded, being mentally tough, being psychologically tough. When the times get tough, the tough get going. That's an old statement that I heard growing up. When times get tough, the tough get going because that's where your priorities, your expectations, your overall action plan is going to bring you to the right direction in your career, in your home, with your friends, and everything that's around you. When you can do that, you're going to be mentally strong. You're going to be able to focus on you and be able to promote your continued growth. And that will provide you all the clarity in the world you need, all of everything that's going to make or break you as an individual. So let's bring this together. You will have days when you're frustrated. You will have days when you can't be motivated. You will have days when your motivation disappears. That is not abnormal. This is a human function under pressure. But what separates people is not how they feel when things are easy, it is what they do when they feel things are misaligned internally. Because in this economy, pressure is constant. Pressure is where expectations will continue to shift and emotional fatigue is real. But your career is not built in alignment. It is built in resistance. It's built in segments. It's built in the learning curve that you have got to this point. You've learned every little thing you need to go through step 1 to step 10. You're continuing to grow. Continuing to learn specifics that are going to help you gain ground within your current position. Do not wait for emotional relief. Just ask, what is the smallest controllable action I can take right now? And take it, because that is how frustration breaks. This is how momentum returns. This is how long term success is actually built. Think about the sports teams out there that have lost numerous games in a row. They can't seem to cut a break. They can't win. That emotional distress begins to come over them. They begin to make mistakes. And the same thing goes over and over, and they can't break the cycle of losing. But then one day they're able to put it all together and they break the cycle. That's why you have to keep grounded and keep moving forward when it's hard. Again, I've always talked about this before. Life is difficult. Life is a challenge. Life is the opportunity to overcome all of those obstacles in your life. And that's why it's so important to wake up, feel strong, be strong, act strong, even when sometimes you just don't feel like it. Because everybody has a moment of discouragement, but that means every moment has the opportunity for somebody to break the cycle. By breaking the cycle, you tell somebody else, you're doing a good job. I see that you're working hard. I see that you have that mental strength, that discipline to really focus on your own success. So sometimes you have that low energy. You're the same person. It's just a different day. And you wake up not feeling your best. Break the cycle. Think of how you can perform at a higher level and break it down with small tasks to get the day started. So that is how you focus on being strong and being productive. So again, this podcast is for those that want to get motivated, that want to have career growth, that want that leadership blueprint to be motivated and ensure workplace success for Gen Z and millennials. So I want to thank everybody for continued listenership. Please continue to subscribe, like. You can listen to us via all the different podcast platforms, or you can watch us on YouTube. And I want to thank everybody. Take care, and we'll see you later. Bye bye.